Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good night, whatever time zone you are. A warm welcome from our side, from the bloXmove side, from the bloXmove team, especially the founders team today. It's a special Ask Me Anything session, I would say, right, Dani and Harry?
Yes,
we had many different tech updates over the last months and years. But yeah, this one is really special for us, I guess. Lovely community, you know why. So it will have a big topic for us, a game changer topic, decentralization. And as we said, and also texted in the last, sorry, now I hear myself 2 times, sorry. So, and yeah, today, as we said, we want to take very seriously what you have as questions related to our latest update related to decentralization, related to semi-DAO. So we dropped a lot of terms, and today we want to explain with, I would say, some deep dives and greater detail what we mean with that and what does it really mean when it comes to implementation. I'm really happy to have you, Harry, as CTO here, and Dani as CIO and especially CEO of the Blocks Lab, so our building team, because you are really the best persons and experts to explain all the deep concepts and mechanisms behind all the terms we dropped in our update. So I'm really happy. First of all, hello, and great to have you here.
Yes, hello. Really happy to be here. Really happy to be able to provide some insight of all the things that are happening, and really a great chance to talk directly to the community, right? Always via Telegram is a little bit more impersonal, let's say, but in this way, I think they can also get to know us a little bit more, especially me, because I'm probably the less known face among Sophia and Harry, definitely. So really happy to put a face under the name that has been interacting with all the people in the Telegram group.
Yeah, also thank you, Sophia, and thank you for Dani for joining. And for me anyway, I definitely do look forward to the course of this AMA, this being pretty much my second favorite topic, the most favorite being the actual smart contracts and the technology. But the second most favorite is the decentralization. And this will be at the center of everything we speak today. And it will be at the center in both the mission or the vision level, where it's about how do we think, what's our mindset, but also simply, all right, to get something done, you need to do this and this, what we call the pragmatic level. So I'm very much looking forward to try to show a roadmap and try to show a future where bloXmove is going to now, which would be very different from how it's operated now, but where tremendous potential and a much bigger room for scaling up is, and it's in the hand of all of us to be able to move that forward and execute it.
Right. And yeah, exactly. You mentioned that already, Harry, right? It is a big topic and a very exciting game changer for us, but we also dropped the term, especially decentralization, open source, several times, right? It was always core of our values, I would say, of the values of our protocol and our development work you guys do. So it's nothing new, but now the entire strategy around, right? And the narrative is really new. And yeah, let's dig deeper, I would say, in order to explain the community what we mean with that and what does it mean really for the entire company strategy and for the people in the company and especially the people in the community. As Dani said already, of course, we take it very seriously what matters for you, right? And which questions you had. So thanks for all the questions up front. You used the hashtag, so we copied and pasted the question in our dialogue today. And I guess you will realize that some questions are really from you. So we try to answer everything which is very important and concerns you right now. Yeah. And of course, the chat is also live. Whenever you have something in your mind, a feedback or another question, please drop it there. We have an eye on it. Yeah. So I would say, let's start. And we dropped already the big terms of open source and decentralization, and now really full decentralization. And Harry, maybe you can face it a bit or shape a bit the entire scenario. Why is now the right timing for that? Yeah. And what was, so to say, the reason for that shift in our strategy now? Why would you say this roadmap is exactly the right success step for our company right now? I think we can give some important backgrounds to our community, and maybe you can start here.
Yes. So I will take the liberty to hog the bandwidth a little bit and first go into decentralization and what we mean by the terms of cooperative and what we mean by the terms of semi-DAO. I'll frame a little bit in general terms, but then I will get to the question, why now? Why in this end of July, mid of July of the year 2023? So we are obviously a blockchain project, and we embraced Web3, smart contracts, decentralized identifiers, self-sovereign identifiers from the day we were working within Daimler. So there was, from the beginning, the decentralization was the source of the potential for disruption, the source of making things a better place. Why? And now let's just bring it from these technical acronyms down to the more tangible examples, which at least in Europe are existing in every country, because we believe that the way the Web 2 revolution has rolled out, where it started again when TCP/IP came out and the first protocols and search engines and communication protocols, anybody remember IRC, Internet Relay Chat, came out. It was completely decentralized. It was anybody who got creative could contribute. If you got creative and were recognized, you would benefit. But it was by the people and for the people and with the people. And then the natural development came and it got monetized. And through the monetization and the way the incentive structures worked, which were always based on one man, one company aggregating one whole business, and venture capitals providing tremendous amounts of money to burn to achieve that one last company standing scenario, we ended up with incredibly powerful, much too powerful to be healthy, hyper aggregators. From the Amazon to the Uber to the Google to the Facebook Meta to whatever big company, more and more, whenever you talk about venture capital powered aggregators or companies that are successful, what ends up being the successful scenario, to take it to the end? The successful scenario, so a successful venture is successful when it has completely pushed every single other competitor out of the market, usually by dumping, meaning by taking venture capital money and offering and subsidizing the services at below cost, which is the dumping in its purest form, burning the market completely, killing any small or medium-sized competition, and then becoming the one hyper platform where everybody goes, which is tremendously nice for the user, because Uber, you just open your app in any town of the world and you get a driver, and the driver knows when he's on Uber, he gets passengers. But what do we have here in terms of social or economical situation? We have a situation where there is one company with a bunch of investors who are sitting somewhere that gets all of the benefit, and they leave nothing on the table. How? Well, all the data, all the customer relationship, all the billing relationship, all the brand recognition belongs to the hyper aggregator. The hyper aggregator is not performing the service itself. He is not the operator. So to take Uber, the operator are the drivers, right? Now the drivers have lost the customer relationship. There is millions or hundreds of thousands of drivers to one platform, meaning each one of them can be replaced, and his leaving or not leaving has no impact. And that in turn means he has zero negotiating power. So when it comes to the big important point now, he is asked first 5%, then 10%, then 15%, then 20%, then 25% of commission, and he has no way of fighting back. And on top of that, any improvements and any future revenue channels, like going from Uber to Uber Eats, for instance, how was that possible? It was possible because all of the data and all of the customer relationships were used wisely, smartly, intelligently, and the benefit of that accrued only and only to the company running the show. And again, nothing was left for the actual driver. And if you talk to these drivers, they will tell you that a commission of 20-25% is not something they would appreciate. So this was the main reason we entered it. Plus, for the actual scalability and the ease, it's much easier in many ways to do business in a decentralized way if you manage to create the market that there's many, many independent operators, many, many app providers, possibly white label, and they use one common infrastructure in the middle. So that's the philosophical reason. Now, and this is all laid out in our white paper, so we always wanted at some point in time not only use Web3 technology, but also take the whole project, the software, and deciding on where the software should go to a community-based approach. Now comes towards the timing. And then why do that now? Because if you read the white paper from 2021, it sketched it out. It left pretty much open the when. That now has 2 or 3 reasons. The first reason is one of the key elements of running a token, and that's also a requirement for centralized exchanges, is the utility of the token. The utility of the token, of the bloXmove token, is that it is a token by which you can use access-gated services and deliver them, in our case, mobility. So it's a utility token which controls check-in, check-out access, and we apply it to the market of mobility. So until we offer a launched market product using this technology, there is no utility because you cannot use BLXM for any service. We launched bloXmove Nigeria in Nigeria as an independent company in June. We have one company on it that is our pilot customer, and we have an ongoing full power market traction sprint, which ends on the 15th of August. So the product is live. There are 2 apps, Passenger and Driver, are apps on Google Play. They're on Google Play Store, as well as on App Store. So we established the basis for the utility, which is a big check mark. So we delivered. That's already one good timing element to, all right, now we can shift into the governance. Then, however, we have, and any of you who follows the news, and Mr. Gary Gensler, who's our very best friend in the crypto industry, you see that there is an operational attack, more or less, by regulation, where regulation is being more strictly and more strictly interpreted by the day. And it's interpreted also in a way that more and more sanctions are being put it. It's becoming very important for the safety of anybody who is in the token business to be clean according to what the regulators say, because the regulators are serious. So if you infringe on the rules and laws of the respective markets, such as the US, such as Europe, they will take you to court. They might take you to jail. And they are becoming very, very serious about that. And we've all seen that play out, how now one after the other of tokens got declared a security. Gary Gensler got slapped a little bit, but he will come back, you can be sure of that. So there's a certain amount of pressure in the room to make sure that our setup is clean and impeccable according to the standards that the regulators in Europe, Germany, and the US and other countries apply. We were quite casual about that until now. We don't think we can afford to be casual anymore. And very closely coupled to that came an opportunity. Coinbase is one of the 2 centralized exchanges that I believe, and the team believe, is above risk of falling. The other one being Kraken, in our opinion. Everybody else, whether Binance survives or not, I do not know that. I don't know if they survive or not. But if I had bets to play, if I look at the centralized exchanges, Coinbase and Kraken look safe to me. Coinbase is safe. Why? Because they have read and interpreted and understood the regulatory framework very, 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 very well from a very early moment. So they were always safe. And what do? Coinbase, at least to part, goes out and proactively scouts token projects. I'm not sure whether there's also a way where you can go and directly apply. I do not know, so I'm not including that. But I do know that they actively scout projects, and then they analyze their structure and come to them and tell them, we've analyzed your token, and we found, usually they find, that you're not ready for listing because A, B, C, D, the requirements that we, Coinbase, have for regulation, for listing you, are simply not there. They are doing that not because they are the firm believers in the equity and in the cooperative world and in all these beautiful things that we originally entered it for. They are doing this because they need to be safe. They need to be safe that whatever they're listing on their centralized exchange is not a security, because if they were to offer a security and they would not be regulated in that way, which they're not, then they could possibly go to jail or be fined for very much money. And which is closely related, but not the same thing, and it ties in more to the team being involved or not. Is this token something that is being sold in a way that it can be construed as financial advice or selling something as an investment product? If that is the case, also hands off, because in any market that I know, if you offer a financial product and you're not a licensed whatever the term is, then again, you get sued and you go to jail. And this is getting applied now. So, and the last and the third for them major requirement, and that ties back to the original first timeline, is no utility, no listing. I put it a little bit shorter than they put it, but they put it quite shortly as well. No utility, no listing. Utility token, utility token, utility token. Otherwise, this Howey test and security issue is too close for comfort, so we only list utility tokens. And because they approached us and we saw their analysis of what is lacking in terms of our decentralization, that is when we took, all right, now the things, it all falls into place. It's one of those moments where puzzles are in the air and they fall on the table and they start painting a picture. All right, let's now do this. Let's anyway decentralize. We have launched, we've got the utility. These guys are saying, they're not saying we will list you. By the way, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. We are not standing here and telling you we will be listed by Coinbase. We're not saying that because it wouldn't be true. But they're saying we approached you, we identified you, and if you even want to be considered for listing, get decentralized, and here are the requirements, bang, bang, bang. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're then essentially saying, all right, philosophy, mindset, all nice and well. Let's be pragmatic. By the way, we pushed out a Medium article today. You'll find it in the group and also on Twitter, precisely about the pragmatic approach to this decentralization. Let's be pragmatic. And in this immediate 3 to 6 months, which are following, let's do decentralization more or less by the playbook that these Coinbase guys laid out for us. They know what they're doing. And this is essentially the now, and it's already a little bit the why now and a little bit about the how. So sorry, I hogged the bandwidth, but I did want to paint the picture here so the rest of it makes sense.
Exactly. I think exactly what you said here. So you set the ground right now. And of course, with all the different terms and perspectives and reasons you put in, I think there are more follow-up questions. So let's dig deeper here. But I think it's very important what you did right now. You, so to say, framed the entire narrative. And that's very important to understand the entire storyline and the why, right? So thank you, Harry, for underlining that. Yeah, one question of the community, of course, was, okay, got you. Why is clear. Different, so to say, steps and reasons also. Guys, what are you doing now, right? So what is your personal role maybe in that and the change? And maybe I drop the ball first of all to you, Dani, and then person after person we can tell a bit about the personal story. But what is at the end then your role here? And when we speak about more decentralization, are we in? What is our level of controlling? So maybe you can give also a bit of background information for the community, right?
Yes, definitely. First of all, I'm going to start explaining my role, right? Because you say, CIO, this is something that is probably not that known for the community. This stands for Chief of Innovation Office. Let's call it product or something like that. In plain English, this is, I feel myself sometimes as the glue between these two professional profiles that we have here, right? On one side, Sophia, which is not only the crypto bride, right, but also the corporate bride, because she managed to convince a lot of corporates to collaborate with us, to provide input, to provide feedback, and to provide requests of what would be interesting for us to work with you, what we would really like to have in order to move forward with your technology. And in the other side, we have Harry, which is very passionate, philosophically speaking, but mostly technically speaking, right? So what the corporates require or want and what the tech allows and can be done is not always matching. And this has been basically my role here, try to put these paths together. In the personal relationship, this means arguing with one and the other, pushing in the opposite direction, but trying to find a path that aligns with the bloXmove strategy, that aligns with a product that takes the technology as innovation element, and also that matches the requirements from the market, let's say initially the corporate market. What is changing right now with all this decentralization is that I'm not going to say that we are not going to have, but we are not going to exclusively have the input from the corporates, right? We're going to put the community in a pedestal, and we are going to basically listen to what they want to say, what they want to be developed, how they want the platform to evolve from now on. And then basically, not exclusively in the sense that not only bloXlab, not only me, and not only the development team that we have will work in this direction, but we will definitely do. Alongside with us, we expect some other developers to continue elaborating there. This is a little bit the framing of the operational mode, right? Talking a little bit more about the strategy, talking a little bit more about the, let's call it the master plan or the implementation plan that we have still in the road. We are still connected to bloXmove Nigeria. We are supporting the bloXmove Nigeria, the independent entity that we have in Nigeria. We are providing all the tech support. We will continue doing that until it evolves as the market in Nigeria says. And of course, there are some other elements of the core platform that no one can take the place so far. Maybe in the future, it would be open, yes. But when we are talking, for example, about the investor portal, which version 2 should be coming in the next months. When we talk about the governance mechanism, right? We're talking about governance, yes, but how are we going to execute one? Okay, this is us. We will be creating the mechanism or connecting already existing mechanism in order to allow the community to participate in this governance. And of course, the most important part of this is that we will continue be connected to bloXmove. We are really connected to bloXlab. We will continue be implementing, but we do not want and we do not expect to be alone in this way, right? This connects with what Harry mentioned before regarding open source project. We are open sourcing everything. One, because this is kind of a requirement for Coinbase and for the decentralization, but also because we have already experienced really good feedback and really good income from the community in terms of bug fixing, in terms of requests of change, of development. And I'm not going to say we want to leverage that, but I think that when we think of ourselves as a community, it does make sense that all of us, in the way we want to, the way we can collaborate in this direction. So we will definitely be doing that, and we expect more people like us to do it alongside with us.
Okay, Danny. So now that some of the overall frameworks are there, let's start with maybe, I'm not sure, but it seems to be the point that the community had the most immediate questions about. Mm-hmm. And I encourage everybody to please find the relative paper. There's a link to the Coinbase negotiation where all of this originates. There's a very clear demand on us. There must be no control anymore. There must be no core team, and they define it essentially. If the core team goes and the project could possibly go down because of that, it is not decentralized. So they almost have a negative exclusionary way of measuring it. And this is exactly what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. Some of us are doing it as part of the handover through bloXlab. This is a little bit what Dani was hinting at. And then you, Sophia, you are joining actually a company that in a way represents possibly all of our dreams in what they're doing. But you are now joining them as their Chief Marketing Officer. It's a company which in Germany is quite famous, 1,5 Grad. And they are contributing, and that's what the name says, to let's keep the effect of climate change below 2 degrees, because the company names that says 1.5 degrees. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about not only your new role at 1,5 Grad, but how we will continue to benefit from your experience and your engagement and the passion that made you such a well-known part of the bloXmove community.
Even more of that compliments and feedback. No, you framed it perfectly and straight, I would say. Most important and first message, and I think the entire community here can see that and feel that it was a long discussion, negotiation, and really development process in our brains, and with a lot of rounds between all of us. So we are really proud of the results right now and the strategic elements we communicated to you, right? It's not like it was a fight or something like that, and now someone is leaving the ship. So this is really important for me to frame that narrative again, because it's a true story. So we are well connected, and we stay well connected. As I said in different communications, I maybe make a step in the background and stay as advisor and as founders. I stay here, of course, and will also bring in my know-how, as Danny said, sometimes maybe the perspective, the market perspective, and also the communication perspective. And this is still the same. But I also know, and Danny, you said it already, when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to bringing our vision to real life, to reality, my power is also to connect and to build bridges. And right now, I think I can do that, especially in an area which Harry mentioned. It's a climate company, exactly. So we take care of climate neutral houses and also buildings. And this is now the beauty in it. If you mean it really or take it seriously with that concept, you connect at the end your heat pump, your solar panels, your house, your smart meter, your car, your wallet. And now we are back in bloXmove vision. As we told you from the very beginning, we are ecosystem builder. We are an infrastructure for charging and mobility. And we have, and Harry mentioned that already, the NF ticket protocol with different functionalities and features. And one was always related to certificates, to green certificates. And maybe you can already see how everything come together and is at the end an overall story, because decentralization is a big topic in the energy market right now, as we told you also during the last years. And this is right now a new chance of bringing our technology in a setup, in an infrastructure. And of course, we also have good talks here with a company because they have the same vision, decentralization of energy systems. And at the end, you need a smart infrastructure for IoT, so for devices. You need automation, you need wallets, and so on and so forth. And this is exactly why we believe it's not just it's not leaving a ship, it's more maybe a sidestep for some connections, and at the end also connections in a bigger ecosystem where maybe bloXmove plays a big role at the end. And as I said earlier, of course I stay here, but as Harry mentioned already, we need to give up control if we take it seriously with all the different requirements from Coinbase. And this is what we want to do it real and with 100% if we give it a try. And as we said, we do that. And this is also why we said, okay, then let's take care or bring our strengths in different other areas and leverage our story via that vehicles, I would say, right? And this is what I will do. And as Harry said, now in a second, so to say, role, in a new role as CMO with 1,5. Yeah.
Okay, so Dani, and now
Yes.
over to you. The two of us, what will our role be? We also need to transition out. Mm-hmm. But if you look at, and again, I can only refer, we took a lot of effort to write 2 Medium articles. They're linked to each other. I really do encourage, for those that don't understand the context of what we're speaking about here, and you are interested, please go and go to bloXmove Medium and look at those articles. They link to each other. So if you open the last one, it'll take you to the one before. But so our role right now is the caretakers. So Dani and I are caretakers. Now that's number one. So because there's a before, which is now, and there's an after, and somebody needs to facilitate the in-between. Exactly. That is not a community-related community management in the sense of publicity. It's not a publicity topic. It's not a marketing topic. It's also not a business acquisition topic, which is why we can safely say, have good success, Sophia, focus on your role in 1,5 Grad, be there when we need you as a mentor, as an advisor, be in the community. But what needs to get done now, Dani and I need to execute it, which is setting up the governance, setting up the developer community, and also setting up the labs organization, which is, and now I'll finally actually understand it, which is something that all major token projects have, which is this commercial entity that usually has a big part of the founding team inside of it, but acts essentially as a consultant or programmers for hire, plus advisors to the core team. So my role in all of this is that I will be heavily focused on setting up the developer community and putting the tools in place for the governance. For instance, there will be talk about a token-gated Discord channel for the developers. There will be one or the other of a voting tool, a Web3 token-gated voting tool in place. And there will be something along the lines of a semi-DAO. We will get back to that. What are the mechanisms by which you connect crypto decentralization, the DAO component, to an actual legal entity which sits in a real country and is recognized by the real regulatory authorities of this country in a way you stay safe and above the line for long. So that will be my role. And now, Dani, you are essentially the head of bloXlab. So explain a little bit the role of bloXlab and how bloXlab will, on the one side, work with Nigeria, how it will be involved in the actual transition to the real decentralized bloXmove project, and how its role will be in terms of offering services for NFT certificates, for consulting, etc.
Exactly. Yes. So basically, bloXlab is, we can say that it already existed somehow internally, right? It was the group of core developers and people that was really involved in the core tech elements that we have, the mobility platform, the NFT kit, Nigeria, as I also mentioned, Investor Portal, Midvida long time ago, and any other project that we have developed. So what we are basically doing now is taking this knowledge that we have gathered through the years and put it at the service of the community. It was already at the service of the community from a centralized perspective, but now coming from a decentralized perspective. And the roles are basically two. The first one, as Harry said, and I don't know for how long, because ultimately this is not the goal, but we are the caretakers. We need to take care of the platform. We need to take care that everything continues running smooth. We need to take care of whatever is going on. And most importantly, we need to take care of the implementation of the governance mechanism. I will come back to this after. The second role and the long-term role for bloXlab is to continue onboarding partners into the technology that we have and the platform that we have already created. This means supporting companies that want to use bloXmove technology by providing access to the people that actually develop that platform. This is the example, for example, for Nigeria, which is using mobility platform core components, which is using NFT kit. Couple of weeks ago, we have the digital gift. We were basically supporting digital gift to use the bloXmove NFT kit. And this ultimately becomes B2B relationships, right? We have the knowledge, let's say development, consulting knowledge, and we put it at the service of any company that want to build on top of any of the elements of the bloXmove ecosystem. So we will be acting as traction makers. We will be making easy for anyone that wants to jump into the Web3 world to do that through the bloXmove channels, let's say. And of course, why not implement any request that comes from the community whenever there is no one else able to do that, right? This is actually something something important. Now, talking about the governance and the gather of the community, I must confess that it is not 100% defined right now, the how. So we know that there are existing mechanisms, existing platforms that allows this governance, but we'd want to take the time to make it in a proper way to ensure that every member of the community gets the correct weight, in the sense not only of the amount of tokens that you have, because this is ultimately the same case as Uber, right? You can just go to the public stock exchange, buy what you can afford, and become the owner. This is not the case. This goes against the decentralization as we understand it. We want to make the governance based, yes, on token ownership, but also based on participation in the platform, in the sense of using services, providing transactions, providing tractions, bringing new corporates that want to build on top of the ecosystem, which definitely will make it more robust. Participating also in the governance, right? Governance is something that it is there, but most of us own tokens from different projects, and whenever there's a voting or there's a decision to be made, we just do not participate there. And this is not the way we want to proceed, right? We want people really involved in the community. We want to give these people the proper weight and the corresponding voting right according to the, let's say, the benefit that they can bring to the platform. And this is not only represented by the amount of tokens. In this direction, we have mentioned in our press articles on our Medium, core community group, right? This is for anyone to be afraid of that. This is not that we are going to select a group of people and they are going to do the governance. No, this is simply an intermediate step in which we are going to align with the people that has been collaborating so far without any profit or any interest in getting paid or something like that. Just people from the community that provide feedback, that whenever we bring a new product live, they take the time to find bugs, to request some improvements and so on. And we are going to basically continue contacting them in order to basically validate the proposal for the rest of the community. So this is a transition phase. We're going to use this core community group, which will be slowly growing as fast as we can ensure that every mechanism works in the perfect way. And once this is done, ultimately the core community group will be the whole community, right? This is just the testing, so to say. And in this direction, I mean, because of course this relates to who can govern, who can vote, and so on, there are several words that probably need explanation, right? Because we all are aware of what DAO means, but maybe not all of us are aware of what semi-DAO is and which implications or which are the differences between one or the other, right? It's always tricky. I've seen some concerns, valid concerns in the group, but I think we should explain these differences. And Harry, maybe you can provide a little bit of your philosophy here.
Yes. Of course, it's an artificial word. We just had to come up with something. So semi just means half, hybrid, and DAO is DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So as a true believer in decentralization, most people would say, I want a DAO, which is essentially an amorphous software as far as any legal nation state looks at, that somehow makes decisions which are executed by smart contracts, and nobody can really tie it back to any person because it is autonomous organization, okay? And that's a DAO. And so it reflects decentralization in its purest and most decoupled form. It has a big issue. It is simply legally, there are some small, very small examples of somebody who pretends to have created the DAO and legally register it. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't have a legal existence. It's not a foundation. It's not a company based on stocks. It's not a government organization, it's not a limited company, it simply doesn't exist. And as sad as it sounds, the measure of whether an organization exists legally it's true, and sad, but it is true. Are you known and approved by the tax authorities in your country? If the answer is no, then be very afraid, because you're probably headed for trouble. If the answer is yes, then you know you are legally operating. And that's the fact of it. That's at the end of it, you want to tie it down to the core measure. Does the taxman say you're honest? Then you're legal. So for that, we believe that pragmatically speaking, that's the best way to operate. So that is why already a while ago, more or less with the token launch, we set up what is called a company limited by guarantees in Singapore as the placeholder for that. It's a company, it's registered, it does year-end closing, it provides data to the taxman, so it's safe, and it is structured in a way it is not allowed that any of the profit is ever paid out. Whatever profit this organization makes, it's not a non-profit organization in itself, but it can only use it for its own goals. So it acts very similar to foundations in the more general sense, but its legal form is actually closer to that of a limited. And in fact, the company name then says limited, in brackets possibly CLG, for company limited by guarantees. So now we have this legal company, which is just another corporate entity. Nice, because, not for profit to the outside, but still just a corporate entity. And we got the DAO part, where ultimately token holders. So first of all, we will give all of the foundation, all of the token treasury to the community. So whatever is held by the treasury for the foundation will be part of what the community controls. We will then give the voting rights to token holders. There will be two dimensions to the weighting, the amount of tokens, plus the time, actually 3 dimensions, plus a measure for your participation. And that is where the decisions will be made. The semi-DAO, what does the semi-DAO then in the end is? The semi-DAO is when the legally registered entity becomes a rubber stamp execution arm. So you only have a corporate secretary and a essentially dummy, a director. The corporate rules of that company simply state, execute any legally possible proposals and demands that get submitted by the toolboxes that the DAO has provided. Do not question them. Do not discuss them. There's no board of directors. The only check that you, as the directors of this CLG do is it legal, and do it in the legal way, because that's the whole purpose. You want to stay legal according to the nation state that you're operating in. That's the whole purpose about being clean and regulatory safe. And then whatever that community, that DAO-like community tells you to do, no discussion, you do it. So, and in this way, you have kind of married and got a win-win situation of the two concepts. You have decentralized governance, where the voting rights and the rights of decision are firmly tied to the token and to acquiring benefits which will be tokenized on the token side. You will have a voting mechanism which will be done on Web3, based on Web3 technologies. And the outcome of that will be well-formed proposals that get executed. And a big part of this is, how do we spend the bloXM treasury and for what purpose? The moment this passes the governance process that is laid out, which is what we're going to be built over the 2 or 3 next month, the director just will insist on formulate this in a way that it's legally possible. That will be briefly examined, but only that. And then the director will say, amen, I will do, and will execute. So then the final execution of what the DAO has decided is actually, in the legal sense of the word, in front of the almighty taxman, is done by an entity that the almighty taxman knows and controls and regulates, which makes the almighty taxman a peaceful person rather than somebody chasing you across the globe. So this is essentially what a semi-DAO is. It's a DAO in spirit and a company limited by guarantees in the letter.
Yeah, I think it is pretty clear now. I hope this calmed the small concerns, let's say like that were in the group. But anyways, if there is still any question regarding this topic or any other, we will be more than happy to answer during the AMA or in the usual channels as usual. One point that to mention is the treasury funds, right, that we are going to put under the control of this foundation. And I think something important that we have not addressed correctly or given the proper space is how we plan or how we would like the community to use these funds, right? We are talking about people from the community getting involved in both especially in development, which takes much effort, both co-development, business development, etc. So at least from the very beginning, in the long term, the community will decide, right? But in the short term, we would like these funds to be basically rewarding these people that really collaborates with the ecosystem and makes the ecosystem a little bit more strong and robust, right? Again, I'm coming back to an old topic now because all this decentralization, all this DAO with a perfect legal structure, let's say, goes into the direction of Coinbase. We cannot call anyone guilty for using the name because we have mentioned it several times. But just to be transparent, we do not have a time plan, or we do not have 100% security or confirmation that we are going to get listed there, right, Harry?
Correct. This is, and there's a disclaimer in the last two articles. There's a direct disclaimer. In science, you have necessary and sufficient. So sufficient is if you fulfill the sufficient criteria, you get the result. Necessary is if you don't fulfill those, you have zero chance of getting what you want. So necessary is weaker than sufficient. We are now going to work towards fulfilling the necessary requirements. I am fairly confident that we will be successful in that. So for that, we can give a timeline. I would guess, based on the articles we wrote, sometime around October. We will publish updates every month by the way, from now on. Sometime around October, plus minus, we will have fulfilled the necessary requirement, and we will approach Coinbase for a review. So we will contact them proactively from our side, say, just like we laid it out in our answer, we did answer them already, that we would be able to get back to them around Q4 of this year. Here is what we've done. I think we have fulfilled the requirements. And everything else from then on is in their hands and in ours. So if we become successful and we are decentralized, there is a chance. If we are decentralized but not successful, that will not be sufficient. We fulfilled the necessary requirement. But if the token is not successful as a token and in its utility and in its engagement with a thriving and lively community, then Coinbase will say, okay, thank you. You're nice and decentralized, but you're simply not interesting. So the point being is we need to decentralize when we need to scale. Based on a thriving community, this thing can scale. If it scales and we have fulfilled the requirements and we've done the effort now where there's less and less other companies still standing, there's a subjectively felt positive chance that it will work out. But there is no way we can tell you it will be in this month, in this day, or whatever, because we don't know. And I would really like to insist on one thing. We have managed through our behavior as a team so far, and in the way we faced the community, to acquire, I believe, a justified reputation for being transparent and for being honest. And of course, we also do marketing, but we never ever sell something that is not true. We might tell you we go live on this date and then we announce a delay. Yes, this happened. Mea culpa, mea culpa. It did happen. So that happened in the sense of overselling. But we did go live in the end with the volume that we did, with the features that we promised. And we worked our asses off to make sure of it. And we kept you informed during all of the times. So we will never tell you something that is not there. So there is a hope and a chance, after all, we were approached, that the outcome of this is to be listed on Coinbase, which we believe actually, even though, generally speaking, I still believe centralized exchanges are, for a decentralized protocol, are, for my simple mind, a contradiction in itself. But I do know that the community actually values it, and I do know that certain benefits come from it. So Coinbase is big enough to take seriously even for us, so we took the opportunity. So long story short, we are fulfilling the necessary requirements. There is a very clear disclaimer as to we are not promising anything, but then now comes my German saying again, es gibt nichts Gutes, außer man tut es, which in German rhymes, which means there is nothing good unless you do it. So if we do this right, and if we do the right thing, the right way, at the right time, well, the more you practice, the luckier you get, or chance favors the prepared. That's all I can say towards will we be listing or will we not be listing on Coinbase.
Well, yes, maybe one further question related to exactly what you explained right now, right? You spoke also about rewarding, especially rewarding of developers, right? Maybe a more short-term step. If I listen now to both of you and learn more about the semi-DAO concept and so on, what can I do tomorrow as community, right? What is needed? What would you say if you can say, I have one wish to the community right now and a more short-term thing? Is there kind of criteria for what you need, for whom you need? Maybe you can also tell the community a bit more about that.
Well, there's two parts. One is we will start actively in the next less than 14 days. We will open a token-gated Discord channel for the developers. I know already at roughly 5 developers in the community who have in the past been active. So at that point in time, I will just ask them on invitation basis, please come in here and recommend others. And it'll be a bootstrap mode, and anybody in that Discord gated channel will have access to the source code. It'll be gated, so at that point in time. So right now, and the same thing then goes for the community itself, and with that I'll hand over to Dani, is as the community hears about this, think first, because there's effort involved. There's a reason why the governance structures of many organizations ultimately fail. The biggest reason is lack of engagement. The second biggest reason is too much talk and too much self-importance and grandstanding. Those are the 2 reasons why a governance project fails. We will get to the second one eventually, I'm sure of that, but we will need to deal with it. But the first one is not enough traction, not enough engagement. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, Sophia, yes, I would like to actively ask each team member, and you will be incentivized, by the way, but do not make that your primary purpose. Are you willing and are you able with your time, with your daytime job, with your family, with your children, whatever is in the play, are you able to contribute a few constructive, focused hours to deciding and building how the ship of bloXmove community should be organized, how the treasury funding should be distributed, how the decision-making process should be made, who should be eligible for voting, what should the voting rules be, what should the voting mechanisms be? Are you able and interested in producing focused time, constructive time? If the answer to that question is yes, please reach out to us over whichever channel you want.
Yep.
Direct channel, Telegram group, Twitter, we don't care. We will see the message and we will gladly accept you. So please, community, do understand one thing. And this was one of the questions. The first question after we announced this was, yes, but if this can fail, why would it fail? Was asked in the Telegram group. And the answer I gave then is the only answer that has me partly worried about this. One thing is sure, it will fail without question if there is not enough active engagement by the community on a regular basis. You cannot have a decentralized token be successful and survive if there is not a minimum critical mass of active people who contribute time, spirit, and passion. It's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is just necessary. This is not sufficient. Having 100 busy, engaged, passionate people does not mean that you necessarily sufficiently guarantee success. But if you don't have that, stop even dreaming about success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Long story short, please, guys and girls, raise your hand if you're ready and willing to participate and help us build this.
Yes, exactly. I cannot add much more to those words, right? Great power carries on a great responsibility. So if you have the power to push bloXmove in wherever direction, it's also a responsibility. It takes time. I'm not going to put it that brutal as Harry, in the sense of several hours per week and really big engagement needed. The engagement is needed, yes, but you do not need to be, let's say, a senior developer with several years of experience. Any user that, for example, right now in Nigeria, that uses the app and sees something that could work in a better way, even if you don't know how to do it, or if you know how to do it but don't have the time, bring this request to the community. Maybe other member of the community is willing to do that. So this is not really taking that much time, at least these small feature proposals. Participating in the governance, I mean, this is why we're doing that, right? Decentralization needs decentralized governance. If we settle everything up and only one people is voting at the end, is going to be centralized. The mechanism is decentralized, but the community itself is not decentralized. So the only thing that I can say is get involved as much as you can, as much as you wish. Any little contribution is a big contribution, actually, and ultimately spread the word. I mean, we need to get to more people. The more traction, the better, the more beneficial for all of us. So make us even more known, and let's push it all together.
Yeah, I think great closing words. And yeah, I would say, gave really all the answers the community asked for, right? Or the questions they asked for. We came across many questions in the last hour. Of course, I think there are more open questions, right? But as you said, and you invited for more dialogue via all our channels, and there will come new channels, right, Harry? As you said, more engagement also on developer tools, that we can really collaborate with each other and co-create with each other on a development level. One important question, which was also in the chat, was related to Nigeria. And guys, as we said, we want to separate the topics, because you can see we can talk hours about DAO, decentralization, and so on. So this was focus of today's session, Decentralization Roadmap. And as we said, more dialogue via our channels. There will be a separate Ask Me Anything session, and of course with a local team, because as you always know, we have a local team in Africa which is really scaling and leveraging this topic around Nigeria. And of course, we want to invite them in an Ask Me Anything session related to Nigeria. So stay tuned, but also a bit of patience when it comes to this topic, the mobility, decentralized mobility, and the DApp. And for now, I would say, because we are now close to 1 hour of talking, I think that's enough related to that topic. But if you have a closing word or something you want to add, because you said, okay, it's my missing statement or important point, then please add it now. Otherwise, I would say let's meet in the next Ask Me Anything session.
Mm-hmm. I would just say thank you to the community, because they have already provided really valuable income, feedback, and discussions in the channel. So just encourage them to continue doing that. And again, thank you from our side.
Yes, and do join us. We need you. It's that simple. Please actively join us, and let's make something